Well, to Premier Scott Moe now, who on Thursday evening turned to social media to share in part the following. Export taxes have never even been mentioned by the Prime Minister on either of the calls with premiers to discuss the U.S. tariff threat. That statement responding to news reports that suggest the federal government is considering export taxes as one possible response to U.S. tariff threats. And according to those reports, the goods being considered are high-demand exports like oil, uranium, and potash. Well, with more, we're now joined by the Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe. Premier, thank you for making the time again.
Well, thank you so much.
Listen, I want to begin with that post that you shared because you say in it that export taxes were never discussed by the Prime Minister. You also say that they would be a betrayal of the Team Canada approach that Justin Trudeau keeps talking about. Can you build upon that? Why would you view it as a betrayal?
They've never been brought up. We've had two phone calls on, the concerns of President-elect Donald Trump, which have been primarily around the border. We've been through this discussion a few years ago under the previous Trump administration with steel and aluminum tariffs under Section 232. We were through it a decade ago with the country of origin labeling as well. Never have export tariffs been considered. Never have they been discussed by this Prime Minister, the previous one, and I wouldn't expect by the next one. That's the betrayal, is asking all premiers, and we're willing to work with the federal government to secure our borders, to engage with the incoming Trump administration at the secretary level, at the Senate level, at the Congress level, at the governor level, but never has it been discussed. And then yesterday we started being asked a number of questions on, export taxes on products that are specifically coming out of Saskatchewan and maybe Alberta, which is a betrayal to the people working in those industries, betrayal to all Canadians as well, as we shouldn't be taxing the products that we're producing. And it certainly is a betrayal to the Team Canada approach that the Prime Minister has asked for and the premiers are offering.
Mm-hmm. Now, the argument is, though, that if you put this export tax, it makes things more expensive for Americans. It makes them think twice about imposing tariffs on Canadian goods. Talk to us about what your concern is with these export tax and what it would do to industry in your province.
Decimated. And I would suggest that if we get to an all-out tariff war across the board in North America, that we have failed. That we have failed as national and subnational leaders. There is a better path forward, and we've shown that time and time, whether it be in the lead up to and the conclusion of the USMCA negotiations or whenever that might be. We need to work alongside the Trump administration, address his concerns are now our concerns, and I would suggest that when it comes to border security and drugs and precursing chemicals coming in, and illegal migrants coming into our nation. That's our concern as well as Canadians. And so an opportunity here for us to secure our borders and to engage in a conversation around we as Canadians and Americans work alongside one another to create an environment, and I would say a successful environment that provides not only us with energy, food, and manufacturing security, but provides our allied nations around the world with that to some degree as well. And so, let's get to work. Let's do the work that is here. Let's not look for a broad-based tariff war of any type. If we get to that point, North Americans are going to lose. And I would suggest the winners will be, other nations around the world that might not be our allies, nations like China.
Mm-hmm. Now, we heard from the finance minister earlier, and she was essentially saying that you and she had a phone call about your concerns. She talked about how we are hoping for the best, preparing for the worst. I'm wondering, in reference to that phone call with Chrystia Freeland, if anything stands out, whether or not you took any comfort from what she had to say to you.
We've had a couple of phone calls. Chrystia Freeland, the Deputy Prime Minister, has been on them, as with Dominic LeBlanc and the Prime Minister and other premiers. Never has export tariffs, been raised on any of those calls, nor should they be, is my position. And I asked Chrystia Freeland, and I'll be asking the Prime Minister to commit to that. And we should not be taxing the goods that we are producing, that Canadians are producing, and in any way. There is a path forward here. We need to work feverishly and work together, support one another in finding, our way to not having tariffs in North America. It doesn't benefit anyone in North America, regardless of what President-elect Trump is threatening. I think there's a way for us to find a better path. We need to find it. This is not an answer in an all-out trade and tariff war. Certainly not an answer.
Well, when you talk about a path forward, rather, you're also raising the idea of calling an election now so that Canadians can decide who will represent them in discussions with the United States. Do you not trust the current Prime Minister to carry out those discussions?
I'm one vote in all of Canada, and President-elect Trump has a strong mandate, probably the strongest mandate that I've seen in recent history, actually, as he sets stand for the White House. The Republican Party has a majority in the Senate and as well in the House, and a 4-year mandate to speak on behalf of Americans, and we don't have that. Our federal government is beyond what the 4 years that people would consider is the norm for any government to serve. And I think it's time. We're going to have an election anyway. We might as well have it sooner rather than later and ensure that we have someone sitting across the table negotiating with the incoming Trump administration or the newly appointed and inaugurated Trump administration that also has a 4-year mandate to speak on behalf of Canadians. I think this is a weakness that we have at the table right now, not necessarily the individuals that are at the table, but the fact that they don't have a mandate from Canadians. And a mandate would strengthen our bargaining position.
Mm-hmm. You know, as I hear you speak, I'm wondering about the Team Canada approach. Again, this appeal from the Prime Minister. Is that Team Canada approach dead?
No, very much alive. We'll be in Toronto. I'll be in Toronto on Monday with the other premiers. There's some, differences in our approach and some of the levers that maybe we have at the provincial level. At the end of the day, we need to stand by whoever our federal government is and engage alongside them. We need to engage collectively as premiers using the contacts that we have, and then each of us need to make decisions and engage as regional leaders as well. And so certainly, this coming together to support one another in this, in the conversation that needs to be had and the actions that may or may not need to be taken is important. And it's important that we are all there as subnational leaders and alongside whoever our federal government is. We've been here before. I've been here 2 or 3 times just in my time as Premier, and I guess we find ourselves here again. And the only path forward is for all of us to ensure that we are working together in the best interest of Canada. We're all Canadians first, and this is no time to abandon that.
Premier Scott Moe, always appreciate the time. Thank you for this.
You have a wonderful day, and if I don't talk to you again, you have a great holiday and a Merry Christmas.
And to you too. Happy holidays.